Hoose, The Last Village by James E. M. Rowlands. Within a shepherd's warning of a night stands the man with pale and yellowing skin like the freckled liver of a tramp. His eyes are slitted from the wind and the salt, and his general smell and appearance is that of a kipper, smoked and scaly. His teeth are either rotten pickets, blackened stumps, or bloody spaces, whereas his breath comes from the highlands of Scotland, a country he has never visited, but which has oft come to him. Dick Bevan is his name. "Because of you, I didn't drink last night," he shouts at his old mate, in the nautical sense, John Armitage. The Anglo-Saxons had a word for a small, dark, and empty place where nothing grew other than sand and those sad, creaking trees that bent in the gales and never cracked. That word was holl, literally a hollow. This, over time, had become hoose, the hole. Nothing of note took place here between its inception, sometimes between fish deciding to leave the sea and breathe fresh air, and 1690, when William III marched through with 10,000 men on the way to Ireland and the Boyne, whereafter it had fallen back into a deep torpor for another couple of 100 years or so. The Poor Law Amendment of 1866 declared all areas that levied a separate rate or had their own overseer of the poor to be parishes. Civil parish was the term used to distinguish some areas on the edge of civilization from ecclesiastical parishes with no institutions and flower pots and benches and bowling greens. Hoose had no church, and so was a civil parish, the lowest form of government. "Say again, Dickie, I'm a bit deaf." "Let us visit this township together, don't worry. It will soon become as familiar as your own village, town, or district. Hoose begins at the sea and ends at the railway line. It looks out towards the north of Wales and Ireland, invisible out there in the fog. It has no station. Bordered to the northeast by Great Mells, which isn't, and to the west and southwest by Little Mells, which is bigger than its namesake, Hoose is a hemmed-in, ragtag assortment of terraced streets and fishing cottages. As we stroll, avoiding mounds of horse droppings and the attacks of gulls and stray dogs from the shore, we may pass along Lake Road, Bank Road, The Grove, Grove Road, Lake Place, Walker Street, Wood Street, Rudd Street, Shore Street. There are 4 pubs: the Ship Inn, the Lake, the Plasterer's Arms, and the Punch Bowl, although the latter is frowned upon as being in Great Mells, and so posh by definition. "I didn't drink last night. It's your fault." Typical Hoose family names stretching back from the dawn of time itself are Sherlock, Dodd, Banks, Armitage, Bevan, and Eccles. The men are most often called John, William, Richard, or Arthur, and their wives and daughters are almost exclusively Elizabeth, Mary, and Anne. We arrived there in 1880. It is the 3rd day of March, early in the morning, and still pitch dark. The air is frosty but not frozen. The salty sea breezes imply negative temperatures. All things exist due to the Irish Sea. Wind is a permanent backdrop to this life. The unadorned flagpoles chime and ding, while out in the waves boys reply with their own drunken music. Richard Bevan of Walker Street is on his way to the lifeboat station. His clogs beat the cobbles like rotten coconuts. Steam flows from his nostrils and from the top of his head, while smoke pours from his pipe. His cap is in his jacket pocket. "What's that got to do with me?" asks John. "Morning, John." Armitage knows that a sober Bevan will cause his morning to feel like a week. Grouchy and cantankerous Dick it will most likely be. "Are we taking her out?" Dick Bevan looks into the dismal nothingness. Maybe they could wait for daylight, but the best catches come just at the instant the first tinsel of photons strikes the baying tide. Even after all these years, he always says this is a good and humble thing. He's afraid of the immensity and thrall of the ocean. "Aye, let's take her out," he replies with a slight scowl, furrowing his forehead. "Right you are." They change footwear. The smack, named Iris, is anchored not far off from near the Hoyle bank of sand. They can reach it on foot at low tide and then wade across. The tide is high today, and so they carry the two-man rowing boat on their heads, walk in boots down the slipway and begin the short journey out to their workplace. The further they get from land, the more eerily quiet things seem. Although no men know this stretch and these conditions as well as they do, it is uncommonly silent and calm. In minutes they find the Iris, tie up the small boat and climb in, hoist the mainsail and take their positions ready for the off. A slight southwesterly wind finally pushes them forward. This is a relief. No wind would mean no locomotion, which would therefore lead to no catch. They head for the space between banks of sand and find themselves happily alone and surfing across the waters towards the Isle of Man, although they will not go so far, due to the intense sea traffic coming out of Liverpool, the largest port in the country. They keep to their own small but flourishing area of coastline, and if all goes well, they will have income for a week. It must be 5 a.m. by now, but still no glimpse of a coming day. The wind dies down once more, but they are far enough out to get their catch without difficulty. It may be problematic trying to return, but they'll worry about that later. "So why didn't you drink?" asks John. John Armitage is 10 years younger, but almost identically roughed up by his life and by the climate. He has a wife, whereas Bevan is a widower. He's blonde, where Dick is greying black. They are both surprisingly strong men for their age. They both have beards, although Armitage wears the chin strap or Dutch variant without moustache, his wife's influence. Bevan's bushy growth contains everything from dried spittle, tobacco, and food. They've worked together since at least the 1850s and are among the only men still alive who remember the terrible destruction of Little Mells and part of Hoose by what local oral history has honed into uniformed witchcraft. "I dropped off in front of the fire," he answers almost despondently. "I had the strangest dream, though." "Oh, go on. Was it those Irish ladies again?" "Daft beggar." Dick punches his mate on the shoulder. "No, I was at home and doing whatever I was doing when a charabanc, a small one, pulled up into the side path. It stopped, and then it disappeared, and then it came back. Time after time. And how's that any of my fault?" "Your wife was in the front seat." "You cheeky bastard." John stands up to clobber Bevan around the back of the head, jokingly, of course. When a huge thud hits the hull of the Iris, he falls and bashes his forearm against the side. "Shy, what was that?" Bevan takes out the oar and pushes it down, searching for the seabed. "We haven't run aground." The ship is bashed once again, this time from the stern. "Hell, must be a whale." They lie flat on the deck and grab onto whatever they can, maintaining absolute calm and stillness. If the ship lurches, they will be safe. If it starts to go down, they will jump back into the rowing boat and hope for the best. There's an almighty splash about 10 yards to the starboard. The spray soaks them, but still, it's pitch dark and they stay there, playing dead. What happens next defies the vocabulary of any language, least of all mine. Imagine standing in the centre of a colossal Gothic cathedral, alone in the night, and within that space is the echoing din of railway tracks being twisted, ships' boilers being crushed, the volcanic eruption of Krakatoa, which is still 3 years in the future, and every inhuman scream that nature could possibly generate, stone on iron, wood on slate, bones of all its creatures twisting simultaneously upon a rack of incredible ferocity. But you are unharmed physically by all of this. You cover your ears, of course, and there's no landslide, no tsunami, nor is there a hail of objects from the sky. Just pure, unsurpassably hellish noise. The sound of slaughter, of revelations, and of demise. And then the clouds begin to part and the sun rises, and you see it. Innumerable corpses of fish, so deeply packed that you can no longer see the water. The iris has not been hit by one thing, but by all things, and all things are dead. This is fresh. Get as much as we can. Fill the dinghy, shouts Dick, springing into action. Soon there's a veritable hillside of fish in the boat, so much, in fact, that they must stand on it to navigate. When enough is enough, for there is always enough, they prepare to sail back. Dick! What's that, John? Look! The couple atop their greatest catch stare out at a vast, empty expanse of green water. All land has gone.